Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a reform that could literally change your paycheck, your working hours, and yeah, even your retirement savings. We're talking about India's massive overhaul of its labor laws, a change that's going to impact millions of us, both employees and employers, right across the country.
Okay, so to really get this, we first have to understand the problem the government was trying to solve. Just imagine trying to run a business, or even just figure out your rights as an employee, when you have to sort through 29 separate, often overlapping, and sometimes totally contradictory laws. It was, to put it mildly, a maze. A lot of people argued it was just completely outdated for a modern economy.
So the solution? A pretty radical simplification. They took that tangled web of 29 different laws and basically boiled it all down into just 4 new unified codes. And these 4 codes cover the whole shebang: your wages, industrial relations, social security, and workplace safety.
Right, let's kick things off with one of the biggest changes, one that's going to affect pretty much every single salaried person in the country. We're talking about the new definition of wages, which could fundamentally change what you actually take home every month.
So here's the deal. The government has set a very specific, hard and fast rule about what makes up the core of your salary. At least half, 50% of your total gross pay must now be your basic pay plus your dearness allowance. And that 50% rule, it's completely non-negotiable.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what? But this is a huge deal. See, for years, some companies would keep the basic pay really low and then pack the rest of a salary with all sorts of allowances. Why? Well, it was a way to minimize their contributions to things like your retirement fund, since those were calculated on that low basic pay. This new 50% rule, well, it slams the door on that practice.
So, here's the crucial takeaway for you. Because your basic pay might have to go up to meet that 50% mark, the amount you and your employer contribute to your Provident Fund will probably go up too. Now, that could mean a little less in your pocket each month, but, and this is a big but, it could mean a significant boost to your long-term savings. We're talking about a change that could reshape the entire retirement savings landscape in India.
But hey, it's not just about what you take home in your bank account. These reforms also completely redraw the rules for hiring, for firing, and, just what daily life at the office looks like. Okay, if there's one number you remember from all of this, make it this one: 300. This is the new threshold. Companies with up to 300 employees no longer need to get government permission for things like layoffs or closures. That's a huge jump from the old limit, which was just 100.
And this one number is right at the heart of the whole debate. For businesses, it's all about flexibility, right? It's about being able to adapt to a changing market. But for trade unions and worker advocates, it's a massive concern. They're worried it seriously weakens job security for millions of people.
The codes also bring in a whole bunch of other really important changes. For instance, contract workers or fixed-term employees now get the same Social Security benefits as permanent staff, which is a huge step. Gratuity, which is a kind of end-of-service bonus, is now payable after just 1 year for them. The work week is set at 48 hours, but, and here's the interesting part, companies can offer a 4-day week, which would mean 12-hour days. Anything over that has to be paid as overtime at double the regular wage. And finally, in a big move for equality, women can now work night shifts as long as they consent and safety measures are in place.
Okay, now for a change that is truly modern, something that really acknowledges how much work has changed in the 21st century. For the very first time, India is creating a formal safety net for a massive and growing group of workers.
This is a landmark move, and it's part of a conversation that's happening all over the world. We're talking about ride-sharing drivers, food delivery partners, and millions of others in the so-called unorganized sector. These folks have historically had zero access to Social Security. This new code changes everything. It formally recognizes them and brings them into the system.
So the big question is, how's this new safety net going to be funded? Well, the platforms themselves, the aggregators, the apps, they'll now have to contribute between 1 and 2% of their annual turnover into a special Social Security fund just for these workers.
All right, so let's pull back and look at the big picture. What does all of this add up to? Is this a smooth, seamless upgrade for India's economy, or are there going to be some bumps in the road ahead?
When you lay it all out, there are pretty clear trade-offs, pros and cons on both sides of the table. For workers, you've got the promise of better Social Security and more formal job terms. For employers, less red tape and more flexibility. But on the flip side, workers could face new work-life balance challenges, and employers are definitely looking at higher costs because of the new wage rules.
And, as you can imagine, this whole thing hasn't exactly been rolled out without some criticism.
A really big and persistent concern, especially from trade unions, is that the balance of power has just shifted too far, that it now favors employers, especially with those new layoff rules.
So, all of this leaves us with one final, crucial question. Are these laws a truly modern framework for a modern economy, or is this a reform that's really still a work in progress? The laws are on the books, but their true impact, whether they actually boost growth while protecting workers, well, we'll only know that as they're implemented and lived by millions across the country. The real test is just beginning.